Welcome to IQD Dinar News, your go-to source for the latest updates on currency exchange rates, revaluation news, and insights into the Iraqi dinar. Stay informed and ahead of the curve with our timely analysis and breaking developments. At the heart of the paragraph is the discussion about monetary reform. Monetary reform generally refers to the process of restructuring a country's currency system to stabilize the economy or improve its financial standing. There are many reasons why a nation might pursue such a course of action, ranging from inflation control to currency revaluation. In the case of the passage you're referring to, the underlying suggestion seems to be that the country involved had intended to implement such a reform at the beginning of a given year, but was unable to do so because they weren't adequately prepared. The concept of being ready for monetary reform is both straightforward and complex. On a basic level, it means having all the logistical and regulatory elements in place to smoothly transition from one monetary system to another. However, readiness in this context also speaks to the larger, systemic preparedness of a nation's economy, infrastructure, governance, and even its citizenry. All these facets must align to ensure the success of a reform. It is this holistic readiness that likely was not achieved at the desired time, thus necessitating a delay. Reforms of this magnitude are not simple undertakings. They require the coordination of multiple institutions, including the central bank, government bodies, international financial organizations, and private enterprises. In addition, public perception and trust play a critical role in ensuring that the reform is successful. If a country announces changes to its currency or monetary policy without having laid the necessary groundwork, it risks causing confusion or panic, which can lead to undesirable outcomes such as capital flight or a loss of confidence in the currency. For instance, if a country is moving towards currency revaluation where the value of its currency increases in comparison to other currencies, so it needs to ensure that the conditions are right. Revaluation could be spurred by positive economic indicators like a trade surplus, rising foreign reserves, or economic growth. However, even with these indicators, other elements must be in place, such as maintaining a balance between imports and exports, ensuring price stability, and managing inflation. Without these conditions, revaluation could backfire, leading to higher costs for exporters or domestic businesses that rely on affordable foreign inputs. Returning to the original passage, it's important to highlight that the process of monetary reform is often planned well in advance. Governments and central banks will spend months, if not years, preparing for changes to the currency system. This includes conducting studies, consulting with international financial organizations like the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and running simulations to predict how the reform will impact the economy. Given this, it's likely that the plan to execute the monetary reform at the start of the year was based on earlier projections that turned out to be too optimistic. When a country embarks on monetary reform, it must also consider its geopolitical and international economic standing. For example, currency revaluations can have ripple effects beyond a country's borders. Countries that are trading partners or that hold significant reserves of the revalued currency will be impacted by the change in value. As a result, governments often need to engage in diplomatic consultations with other nations and international financial organizations to manage these external relationships and mitigate any negative consequences. If a country decides to delay monetary reform because it isn't ready, as the passage suggests, it may be due to any number of factors, both domestic and international. Internally, there could be political instability or resistance from influential groups. Politicians might face pressure from businesses, labor unions, or other interest groups that fear the impact of reform. Alternatively, there could be technical or logistical challenges. For instance, a government may need to update its banking systems, issue new currency, or develop new regulations, all of which take time. Externally, global economic conditions may shift in ways that make reform more challenging. A global recession, trade wars, or fluctuations in the value of major currencies like the US dollar or euro can all affect a country's ability to implement monetary reform. For example, if a country is heavily reliant on imports, a revaluation of its currency might lead to higher import costs, which could then cause inflation. To avoid this, the government might decide to wait until global conditions are more favorable before proceeding with the reform. The second half of the paragraph "but they sure are ready now" implies that the country has finally overcome the obstacles that prevented the reform from taking place earlier. This is significant because it suggests that the necessary preparations have been made and that the government or central bank now believes that the conditions are right to move forward. This readiness could manifest in several ways. Economically, the country may have achieved a more stable growth trajectory, reduced inflation, or increased its foreign currency reserves, all of which would make it easier to manage the transition to a new monetary system. Politically, the government may have built a broader consensus among stakeholders, reducing the likelihood of opposition or unrest once the reform is implemented. Technologically, banks and financial institutions may have upgraded their systems to handle the logistical challenges of the reform, such as issuing new currency or recalculating exchange rates. Ultimately, the success of a monetary reform depends on careful planning, timing, and execution. The delay described in the passage might have been frustrating for some, particularly those who were eager to see the benefits of the reform. However, by waiting until they were truly ready, the government or central bank likely avoided a much larger set of problems down the line. It's important to remember that monetary reforms are long-term projects that can take years to fully materialize. Even after the initial changes are made, there may be a period of adjustment during which the economy goes through growing pains. These could include short-term inflation, fluctuations in the value of the currency, or disruptions in trade. Nevertheless, the assertion that they sure are ready now conveys a sense of optimism and confidence in the reform process. It suggests that, after a period of careful consideration and preparation, the government is ready to move forward with the plan, and that the country is in a better position to handle the challenges that might arise. In conclusion, the paragraph touches on several important themes related to monetary reform, including timing, preparedness, and the complexities involved in making such a significant change to a country's economic system. While the process may have been delayed due to a lack of readiness, the current state of affairs suggests that the necessary groundwork has been laid and that the country is now poised to implement the reform successfully. Thanks for tuning in to IQD Dinar News. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more updates on the Iraqi dinar and global currency trends, hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.